Please sing along. Lost and alone on some forgotten highway, traveled by many, remembered by few, looking for something that I can believe in, looking for something that I'd like to do with my life. There's nothing behind me and nothing that ties me to something that might have been true yesterday. Tomorrow is open and right now it seems to be more than enough to just be here today. I don't know what the future is holding in store. I don't know where I'm going. I'm not sure where I've been. There's a spirit that guides me, a light that shines for me. My life is worth the living. I don't need to see the end. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Oh yeah, sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. One more time. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air.
Thank you, John, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Karen Bush, and I have the privilege of serving as the interim lead minister in partnership with UUCUC's congregational minister, Reverend Sally Fritchie, who's spending the weekend in Chicago exploring. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or with us online, we are so glad that you are here. Our congregation's mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. We are a church of many different beliefs, united through commitment to shared principles, and know that in whatever form you find us today, whether you are here in the sanctuary, watching live from home, or tuning into the recording later on, this service is here for you. So, welcome. Remember that there is still time to send in a joy or sorrow to be read aloud later in the service. Those watching online are welcome to email your message to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. And those that here in the sanctuary are invited to use the note cards in the pews, which the ushers will collect later in the service. Today is Intergenerational Sunday, which means that our youth and our children will be staying up in the sanctuary throughout the service. Kids, listen up for a sec. Has everyone gotten crayons and paper? Raise your hand if you don't have crayons and paper. Oh, Amelia needs crayons. Lynn's going to bring Amelia crayons. And whether you're 5 or 50, and there's someone in the back, Yes, crayons and paper. I've got some special instructions for you. Thank you, Lynn. What I'm going to do is ask you to draw pictures of what you love. What you love. So the door is wide open. And then I'm going to, please feel free to use like a hymnal, one of those big gray books, or on the wood pew if you want to use as a table. That's totally fine. And then I'll be giving the message, the sermon, early in the service, and then we're going to have our time for all ages, kids, toward the end of the service. And then that's when I'll invite you to come forward, and if you're comfortable, we'll share and talk about what you drew. And then we're going to have a little conversation together. Does that sound good? So everyone all set with crayons? Anyone older than 5 that didn't get crayons that wants some, you help yourself. There, we've got plenty in the back. Over 25, I should say. Now, the theme of our service today is to pause to consider 2 questions. 2 not so simple questions. What is church? And what is truth? This is the second to the last message I will have the privilege of offering from the pulpit as your interim lead minister. The time has gone fast. And this message is born out of questions from my time with you as your interim. A message that I hope will challenge and inspire further inquiry for each of you personally and for the congregation as a whole as you continue to journey with Reverend Sally and, of course, your new lead minister as they join Reverend Sally and the rest of our wonderful staff in the fall. So this message is a gift and a challenge to you, and it is a gift for the next lead minister. I am eager to see where the future leads you all as you continue to grow and explore and blossom here on the other side of the pandemic. And now, you're invited to rise where you are and turn in your seats and greet your neighbor, passing of the peace, good morning, however you will. Rise and greet your neighbor. Our land acknowledgement, which we integrate into every service, is a special practice that connects us to the history of this place and our own responsibilities as stewards and members of a wider community, as stewards of the land. Wherever you are listening from today, allow yourself a moment to sink down into the deeper history of that place. Think of all the lives that have taken root here where you are. Those who have lived in your house or apartment or dorm room before you arrived. The builders who constructed your walls. The critters of every shape and size who have lived and died nearby. And the glacial ice that once moved across this prairie. And yes, the many people and peoples who stewarded this land for generations. Here on Green Street, we worship on the lands of the traditional territories of the Kaskaskia, the Miamia, the Bodwamia, Kickapoo, Peoria, and Oshed-Oshakowin, the original nations of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. Wherever you are this morning, I invite you now to take a breath and consider the history and the peoples of the land that you are resting on. May we always remember where we are, the sacredness of this place, and the many people who belong to it. Our chalice lighting will now be led by Adelaide Amy, who is serving as our morning worship associate, and who has also began this past summer courageously serving as our congregation's treasurer, for which we are most grateful. And you can find the words on an insert if you'd like to follow along.
And now, if you have a chalice or candle at home, please join us by lighting it. Everyone is invited to simply listen or silently follow along as I read our inspirational chalice lighting words by the UU Wendy Bartell. As we light our chalice, we are reminded that separation is an illusion, that when we move beyond binaries, we multiply possibility, languages, identities, customs, practices, rituals, ceremonies, not one strict narrative, but the blossoming of many stories and perspectives shared. Throughout this service and this day of life, may we remember that we must dare to cross out of our world into the world of others and to allow others into ours in order to more truly weave a tapestry of understanding and faith. May it be so.
Please join me in body if you are able and spirit if you are not in 1064 Blue Bolt Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrims making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you, Mar, and everyone. Our first reading today comes to us from the pen of UU Michael Schuler, who writes, "At a time of so much rancor and personal animosity, we need an institution where active toleration is practiced. It is not enough to grudgingly put up with our differences. True toleration means celebrating those differences for the opportunity they provide for broadening our perspective. At a time when old and young people have become preoccupied with the affairs of their own peers, while those in the middle are consumed with raising their family and their careers, we need an institution that will draw the generations together and reinvent the spirit of community. At a time when the word spirituality has been cheapened and degraded, and people desperate for meaning are either retreating to old platitudes or grasping at New Age straws, we need an institution which challenges us to question and reconsider the quality of our religious lives. At a time when provincial boundaries and parochial attitudes are being resurrected, we need an institution that will keep us connected with a more global consciousness. Clearly, we need an institution like this one.
One more reading for you today. Got a cheerleader back there. During my time here, thanks to Reverend Sally's role modeling, I've become quite the proficient. Still takes me a moment, giving up paper for electronic. Our second reading begins with words of the third principle of Unitarian Universalism, which is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Reverend Rob Hardy's of All Souls Church, Unitarian in Washington, D.C. writes, "Spiritual growth isn't about a vertical ascent to heaven, but about growth in every dimension at once. It's spirituality in 3D. Growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to a God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its volume, its capacity, its size. We need souls that can take in the world with all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. And we need souls that can love and be in relationship with all of this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. What is church for you? What is truth for you? How do you believe you know for absolute certain anything in this life? How important is it to you to be aware of what you do not know, what you do not yet understand? I have long admired John Dewey's 1929 Gifford Lectures, which were published under the title, The Quest for Certainty. In those lectures, Dewey questions all absolutisms, religious, philosophical, and scientific, with the argument that the human mind is fallible and is subject to all manner of influence that can skew its understanding. Here is one way he says it, and I quote, "The world as we experience it is a real world, but it is not in its primary phases a world that is known, a world that is understood, or is intellectually coherent and secure," unquote. In other words, the human mind can get it wrong. So we can never be content that the ideas and opinions we form about the world are fully certain. Any fundamentalism or absolutism or rigid doctrine about life is only as reliable as the fallible human mind. The quest for knowledge is a legitimate quest, for we can learn new insights and improve our understanding. But the quest for certainty is always ultimately illusory. Religious fundamentalisms are the natural product of certainty, and they are the consequence of a belief that we know, and what we know is actually the way things are. But absolutisms of certainty are not limited to religious ideas. One finds absolutists in nearly every field of knowledge, including every branch of the sciences, whenever someone presents an idea as above all doubt. How open are you to hearing opinions that are different from your own, in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning? Whether the topic at hand be of a religious or political or social in nature. How committed are you to accepting others, including those who do not think just as you? How deeply are you committed to the worth and dignity of every human being, even those who see many things differently from you, born out of their search for truth? How open are you to the possibility that someone with a different set of beliefs, priorities, values, or perspectives might have good and useful things to teach you? And how curious are you to discover what more there might be to consider that they might have light to shed? That they might be, like you, doing good things with their lives. might see nuances of understanding as of yet unbeknownst to you. From the time of the Greeks, we have been misled into believing that statements about the world and reality must be either true or false, right or wrong. Either the ocean tides are controlled by the moon or they aren't. Either an apple is red or it isn't. Either gravity holds water in a cup or it doesn't. And we have turned statements of facts into idols about which there can be no doubt. The earth is flat, we once said with certainty, and the sun moves around it. The earth is round, we later said with equal certainty, and it moves around the sun. The earth is egg-shaped or pear-shaped. These are my quotes. At a later certain conclusion, and the sun is not a sun, but a star. What all these statements have in common is they were each propositions that were either true or false, right or wrong. They were not just estimates or guesses, they were statements of fact. The prevailing assumption of Western thought is that all statements must be true or false, completely true or completely false with no degrees in between. Our thinking left no room for something to be partially true or partially false, black and white with no shades of gray. But it turns out, after many centuries of working with this mistaken notion, that our statements about the world are only approximations, more or less right. All statements fall somewhere in a continuum between true and false, right or wrong. There is still some truth in the statement, the earth is flat. It is just that it's not very much truth in it. The earth we plant a garden patch on is flat, but it is also only a very small part of the earth. And if you connect it to a bigger parts of the earth, you see that it's really round. The statement, the earth is flat, has an extremely small truth value. The statement, the earth is round, has a significantly larger truth value. But there is more truth value if we say, instead of round, that the earth's shape resembles an egg or a pear. Egg-shaped or pear-shaped seems to have an even larger truth value, which is to say more true, but is not absolute or certain truth. Any statement we make about anything in the world is necessarily vague, though some statements are more vague than others. All statements about reality are statements of degree. Are rocks hard? Kids, are rocks hard? Well, more or less. They can also break up in your hand, I found on the farm when I was a kid. Is the sky blue? Sometimes. More or less, but usually more, we hope. Not in Illinois in winter, but... Okay, kids, here's another one. Is the snow cold? Well, more or less. Usually more, yes. But is the snow warm? Sometimes, a little bit. No, we got someone who knows back there. They're paying attention. That's exciting. Reality is not black and white choices, but always shades of gray. New Science of Fuzzy Logic, written by Bart Costco, a professor of electrical engineering at the University of Southern California, says it this way, and I quote, "The fuzzy view says that almost all truth is gray truth, partial truth, fractional truth, fuzzy truth. Math, by the way, is the only exception. Math is the only thing that is either true or false, black or white. But then, math statements have nothing to do with the world. They only tell us about numbers. Costco quotes Einstein as one of the great prophets of fuzzy thinking when he observed that, and I quote, "So far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain. So far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality," unquote. From this, it would seem Einstein embraced a very fuzzy reality. Fuzzy thinking means simply acknowledging that the truth about everything in the world is a matter of degrees, shades of gray. How open are you to hearing opinions that are different from your own in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning? How committed are you to accepting others, including those who do not think just like you? How deeply do you believe in the worth and dignity of every human being, even those who see many things differently from you, from out of their history and their search for truth? How open are you to the possibility they might have things to teach you? Are you willing and able to embrace that there might be much that you don't know, that you will never know? And how curious are you to seek and listen, to learn what common ground you might find together? How are we, in this day and age of such extremes of polarization across our nation, to come together to offer true spiritual sanctuary to our fellow human beings, as well as actively seek the call to diversity, while encouraging and enabling a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, all out of our principles? Abraham Lincoln's words call out to us from 150 years out of another time of extreme polarization in this nation's history. I quote, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will yet swell the chorus of the union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion." And so, friends, I leave you with this statement from the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNaught, who became the president of Star King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California on July 1st, 2014. Before that time, Reverend McNaught served for 13 years, where she was the senior minister of the Fourth Universalist Society in the city of New York, a 175-year-old Unitarian Universalist congregation on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. She writes, "By no means are we Unitarian Universalists perfect. We often fail as much as we succeed. Yet even when, as Rami suggests, we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we return to this essential work of justice and liberation for all. We do the work best when we remember what church is and what it is not. Church is not a place to hide. It is not the place to get away from the world. It is not the place where we get to pretend that we have all the answers or know all there is that is truth. nor a place where we get to pretend that the lives we live and our particular situations are not terribly complex, often confusing, and sometimes depressing. The church is the place where we stand with one another and look the world in the eye, where we attempt to see clearly and with humility as we seek together strength to face what we see with courage, with compassion, and yes, with joy. Amen. Each Sunday, we make space to share the joys and sorrows closest to our hearts. What joys and sorrows do you carry into our time together? Let them rise to the surface now, and if you wished me to share them aloud, there is still some time to send them in to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. That goes for everyone here in the sanctuary as well. Use the cards on the back of the pew. During the pause while folks are writing and the music is playing, those who wish can come forward, or Adelaide will be at the back table to assist, can go back and silently light a candle for those things that you would like to have noticed in your own spirit with candle. In a moment, Kwan will play our blessing song, Long Time Son. And while we listen and sing, you are invited to write your joys and sorrows. And if you wish, at that time, come forward and light the candle. If you didn't get enough time to light your candle, you're still invited to do so while I speak and begin to share the joys and sorrows of this community. Together now we will sing our blessing song, Long Time Son, and then I will share aloud the joys and sorrows of this community. A sorrow from Deborah Carplus. Family member John D. has brain tumor, waiting treatment plan. From David Wolf. My friend Brian is 62 years old, and for the first time in his life, he will have his own place to live. So he's scared and excited. Let's support him. Spirit fingers. Marcia McClard, it's a joy. At last night's performance of Elijah in the Great Hall was magnificent. I stood beside my granddaughter, singing together for the first time in the Oratorio Society. And MR sang beautifully in the many small ensembles. I feel blessed to be able to sing with others and a full orchestra in the Great Hall of Cranard. Cranard's Great Hall, beautiful. Joy from Paul Kaiser at my eldest son Beck's 24th birthday. And Carla Peterson, thank you to the wonderful people who joined one or more of the 3 workshops presented Friday and Saturday by Dr. Joe Minerick and Jocelyn Landon Brown on making a difference in race relations. Genesis Sinek, in 5 days I get to see my family for the first time in a year, but it'll be the last time I see them because I'm moving to Utah in June. From Kate Goslin, a joy. I'm excited to share I'm pregnant and due in September. We have a 4-year-old Sawyer and a 2-year-old Miles at home, and we're thrilled to learn of this 3rd pregnancy. You can imagine our shock when the ultrasound tech revealed to us that there are 2 little heartbeats. Goslin twins arriving in fall 2023. Yeah. And there is a request for prayer that came in to Reverend Sally and I from Reverend Allison Farnham. Love and prayers to the 7 men who've initiated a hunger strike in Champaign County Jail. And I'd like to read their names. Dominic Augustus Fortune, Jacob Hill, Troy Carter, Richard Fraser, Malcolm McGee, John Clay, Rowan Williams. And the 8th Amendment is what is specifically held up. Excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. And you can read more about this online, but we hold them in our hearts this morning and going forward. Thank you all for sharing and for caring. We know the joys and sorrows we have voiced stand with many others on many hearts this morning. In whatever form yours came or lay, know that you are held in the love of this community. And now I invite all of us to take a breath. Rest your eyes, perhaps drop your shoulders, and let us hold these and our own with love and tenderness and gratitude and hope as I share the lyrics of our song, that is the lyrics from our music for meditation, the words from the tune From a Distance, with Juan will play in a moment. Actually, I'll go ahead and start. Yeah. From a distance, the world looks blue and green, and from the snow-capped mountains white. From a distance, the ocean meets the stream, and the eagle takes to flight. From a distance, we all have enough, and no one is in need. And there are no guns, no bombs, and no disease, no hungry mouths to feed. From a distance, we are instruments, marching in a common band. playing songs of hope, songs of peace, and they're songs of everyone. From a distance, you look like my friend, even though we're at war. And from a distance, I just cannot comprehend what all this fighting is for. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. And it's the hope of hopes. It's the love of loves. It's the heart of everyone. It's the hope of hopes. It's the love of loves. This is the song for everyone. For God is watching us. God is watching us. God is watching us from a distance. Music for meditation. We'll go forward.
So, for Community Matters this morning, I'd like to say I hope you've all marked your calendars for next Saturday. You're not going to want to miss the UUCUC Coffee House. Will be held both in person and online. Please check out this week's order of service and the weekly e-news for more details on this and other wonderful bits of important information. This is the fourth Sunday of our annual generosity campaign, a month-long effort to make plans and to budget for the coming church year. And as treasurer, you know that's like right on the top of my mind. We are entirely self-funded, and every year we ask our members to make a financial pledge of their best effort prediction of how much they'll be able to contribute over the course of the year. Those numbers let us decide on our budget for the next year, how big we can dream, and how ambitious we can be. Each Sunday, we will feature a member of the church speaking a bit about their relationship to pledging and their appreciation for all we've been able to do through the power of our collective generosity. At this time, we invite Jenny Hunt, one of our generosity co-chairs, to give us an important update.
Good morning. I want to thank everyone here in person and out there in our universe for those of you who have already donated to our pledge campaign. I do want to take an opportunity to kind of give you an idea of where we stand. And I also need to give us a little bit of a wake-up call, okay? So let me start out with the wake-up call, then I'll shift to some of the good stuff, okay? So as of March 5th, 90 pledges had come in. That is about half of the number of pledges that we received last year. Half. The total of those pledges at this point in time is $373,300. $344. Basically, to match what we did last year, because of inflation, we need $620,000. And that doesn't move us forward. So I'd like us to think just a little bit about the theme of this year's campaign, and that's Leap to the Future. We're trying to find what our new normal is going to look like. Part of the wake-up call is new normal is not going to look like old normal. After what we have all been through, the trauma, the upheaval, we will not simply go back to where we were before. This means changes in how we go about doing things. This means changes in staff, means changes in technology. So those of you who want to sit home with your PJs and your coffee can do that and still have the experience. In order for us to respond to what you all have said in surveys, in conversations, and in requests from your councils, we need $645,000. Yeah, take a deep breath. So I'm going to challenge you all to think about how important our staff are. Think about how important the programs that you are involved with are to you. And I'd like you to do that from the framework of today's theme for the service. What is church? Not only what is church, but what does this church mean to you? Now, one of the goodies, before I get to reading Umita and Marilyn's statement for today, is we need goodies for the coffee house that Adelaide mentioned. I mean, we want goodies. You know, when you use get together, we want food. So, if any of you are interested, basically what's happening, the coffee house is going to occur in here this year. We're going to gather beforehand. So the coffee house is 7 to 8:30 or 9, I believe. Gathering at about 6:30 to gather those goodies. So if you have goodies to bring, please bring them about 6:30 on Saturday. Okay, now I'm going to change hats and I'm going to pretend that I'm Umita and Marilyn. Unfortunately, they're not able to be with us to share their statement today. As a couple, we pledge to the church each year. We increase our pledge as we are able, and we respond to the church's requests for additional funds as we are able. Why do we make a financial commitment to our church? Here are some of our reasons. From Umita, this church is my spiritual home and my community. How significant is this community? Last May, I retired from 25 years on the English faculty at Parkland College. I'd moved to Champaign-Urbana for that job, and I loved my work. Still, when I chose to retire, I didn't worry about being lonely or isolated. That's because I was grounded in this UUCUC community. Since we joined this church in 2001, it has been a place where I have connected with people I have come to love. My interactions have often been through small groups. In 2002, I joined a knitting chalice circle. Of course she did. That's mine. We've all seen her knitting. That met twice a month for 5 years. We knitted and chatted and went on road trips. We supported members through divorce and new jobs and pregnancy. Recently, a Soul Matters group was a comforting constant through pandemic months of Zoom meetings. When that group ended, I joined another where I am making new, deep connections. Opportunities to serve have also led to deep relationships. None more than the ministerial search committee that led to Reverend Florence Caplow coming to our church. Our committee of 7 was a model of healthy and thoughtful communication and of having fun together. Being a member of that committee was one of the best experiences of my life. When the pandemic hit, I invited a new church friend to be my UU COVID buddy. We had weekly chats over tea on FaceTime, followed by 6 feet apart walks. 3 years later, she is one of my closest friends. Friendship and community is what this church is about to me. UUCUC is love embodied. Now from Maryland. I came to this church after 9/11. I was hoping to be around others who share my values. Not only did I find that, but this church has also given me opportunities to live my values and to make dear friends in the process. Life is hard, and I believe we need each other to get through, that it takes a village. Through my work with CareCorps, I can be part of that village. Through the Immigration Justice Task Force, the definition of village has expanded, and I can help to serve and advocate for a broader community. And through the discussions in my Soul Matters group, I have gained new ways of looking at things, and in the process have made dear friends. As you hear this today, Umita and I are with our sister-in-law during her final days. Though we are far away, we feel connected to and supported by our UUCUC community. And this is joint words then. When everything shut down 3 years ago and our world became virtual, every Sunday morning we turned to YouTube on our smart TV, lit our home chalice, and attended our online service. In that surreal time, when the familiar became strange, we found comfort and connection through those online services. Putting those services together and getting them out took resources. We pledge because we know how much we needed that lifeline then and will continue to count on in the future. When we give to UUCUC, we are sustaining our own home, our own community. On behalf of Marilyn and Umita, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you to Umita and Marilyn. We, as Unitarian Universalists, acknowledge that our circle of care doesn't stop at the church doors. We are deeply connected to the community we find ourselves in and to the wider world. Each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For our March Sundays, we're sharing the plate with the Randolph Street Community Gardens. We are delighted to welcome Reverend Dawn Blackman to the podium to share with us now.
Good morning. So as she said, I'm Dawn Blackman, and I'm the lead steward for the Randolph Street Community Garden. This will be my 18th season in the garden. I didn't know what I was getting into when I started. I had been gardening in the then Stratton Avenue plots, Stratton School plots, 8 beds under the master gardeners, and they withdrew. But the children that I was gardening with and I had already recycled our cans and sold our scrap metal to get seeds and tools. And so I called when they said they were going to plow it under and said, "Oh, don't plow it under, we'd like to keep it. And somebody's got to be in charge." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" They said, "Well, you have to pass out the beds. You keep everything neat if some of the beds aren't taken. You make sure they don't get overgrown, and I yell at you if everything's not right." And I thought about it for a quick minute because I'm one of 9 children. I'm the middle of 9 children. The little ones yell at you if you don't give them their way. The older ones yell at you if you don't get out of their way. And I said, well, one person yelling, how hard could that be? Well, last year we had 64 beds. And we've been as high as 72, but we have dividers in some of the bigger beds and they come and they go. Like we have a family that needs a whole 16 by 16 bed and some that only need 4 by 16. So we kind of move the separators around to accommodate the people we have. I knew that there were people who wanted to garden. We grew the most the first year. And every year, for the last 10 years, we've only had space available if we divide something, or somebody is able to go home and garden or moves away. I simply was not aware there were so many people that needed to be able to grow part of their food. That in the town is a food desert. When we became Randolph Street, there wasn't any place to buy, not even an apple, or orange, or a banana. So now the gas station has apples, oranges, bananas, but there's still no grocery store. When we started, there was no transportation to North Prospect. The buses hadn't gone out there yet. There were no sidewalks. So if you had to go buy groceries, you had to walk along the shoulder to Walmart and then catch a cab back with your groceries. We're growing more than food at Randolph, though. I am just heartened by the number of friendships that we've made and we've grown there. We have extended our planting area across the whole spot. Matter of fact, we were granted use of the hill going down to the parking lot for the school because there's just no place else to plant if we're going to have any open space at all. And it's been an experience. Last year, we had our kiddie garden inaugurated. It's a fenced area because they run. And for toddlers, it's called for a program called ANTS, as adults and toddlers. And they come, they've got their own beds and their grow bags, and they kind of play in the dirt for half hour, 20 minutes, and then they move to the shade structure where we have snacks and a story. We have a elementary and middle school program called Future Stewards. And they come, if they're under 12, they get half a bed. If they're over 12, they get 16 by 4 bed. And we're starting to see them come home. We had 2 sisters come last year. They've been gardening with us since they were in 4th grade at Stratton. Last year, they were high school. And they were able to come back as trainees in our job training program. And so they came schlepping. Miss Dawn, can we have our same beds again this year? Because we have a lot of amendments in that soil. They didn't want to be over in the area with the rest of the new gardeners. They had amendments in their soil. We've watched children grow from not knowing where peas came from, literally thinking peas were kept in the basement of IGA. Okay, to grafting a potato plant. Okay, they got little bitty potatoes and little tomatoes, but it worked, and they were enthralled. This year we want to graft true apples onto our crab apples tree. See if we can get real apples that we can eat. That crab apple tree was there when I got there. It has little tiny inedible apples. The birds won't even eat them. We literally have to rake them up every year because otherwise we're just walking on them. But we think that we can get 3 different kinds of apples to grow from the stalk. We're going to try. But one of the things that stands out the most to me is the way that the garden has been instrumental in bringing our community together. I was filling out a grant application the other day, and they said, list all the groups and people that have helped you in the garden. I was shocked. I mean, we always have people come who want to help us, and people drop off tools and don't say anything. Our fruit trees, our serviceberry tree was just dropped over the fence. You know, it was an anonymous gift. Her name is Chalet. So the kids name everything. Okay, that day, we had about 5 or 6 more plants dropped over. Whoever dug the deepest hole got to plant the biggest tree. So Chalet got planted because 2 of the young men they were determined they were going to be to China. Okay. So we are this year trying to expand our garden down that hill, so that we can put in perennial beds to bring more fruit to the garden and bring asparagus back. And we're partnering with a lot of different organizations that are doing individual things for us, because we started this garden with no budget. That's why it was a voluntary position. There's no budget at all. Charles Doty, who was a volunteer, and I funded the garden out of pocket the first 5 years. He rode a jazzy scooter, and he put a trailer on it, and he'd haul boards one at a time from Home Depot so we could build beds. Okay. I worked a part-time job at FedEx overnights for several years because we just had to grow. People were begging for beds. Anytime we found 2 pieces of wood, we put them up against 2 other pieces of wood and we called it a bed. Consequently, some of them were shaped like J's, some of them were H's, you know, some of them were round. If it had a solid bottom or solid side, we'd use it to grow something in. It's been a long haul, but we're seeing so much light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the way that the garden is used in our community. Last year, we were able to host raw tools in the garden. They're an organization that changes weapons, guns, into garden tools. We had a Juneteenth celebration. We had a freedom ride. It's a bicycle ride. We don't ride far. I don't ride at all, because I have to be there doing other things. But we had a route that was all on one-way streets, which worked really well, except that the person who plotted it, I'll confess to that, hadn't taken into consideration that the streets were brick. But they enjoyed it. The kids said it was fun. But the Randolph Street Community Garden is not just a place to grow food. It is a place where food and fun and friendships are grown. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that inspiring tale. Our shared offering is one of the important ways we here at UUCUC can contribute to such powerful and important outreach services. You can give by text or through the online portal on our website, or if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed and checks made out to the UUCUC. Checks can be made out to UUCUC. No matter how you choose to contribute today, half of your donation will go toward the work of this church, and the other half will go to the Randolph Street Community Garden. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received. The offering will now be taken.
Somehow the title of this work and the poets got left off of the order of service. So this song is called The Skipping Stone by composer Z. Randall Stroop. And you're going to hear texts from an anonymous composer thought to have been Mother Teresa, but cannot be confirmed, Gibran Khalil, Rumi, and Hildegard. And the text is in the insert if you'd like to read along with us.
kids, if you'd like to come forward and bring your artwork. And folks, we're going to skip the last hymn. You know why? Is because our postlude, many of us know, if I know John, he's going to invite us to sing in the refrain, and that will serve as our closing hymn and our postlude. And I look forward to hearing John many times, and if I'd come to a concert. Okay, yeah, why don't we just come up here together, and we're going to, actually, we're not going to have the chairs. I think we're going to do this. We're going to kind of do simplify here, but would you feel comfortable saying your name? I'm putting you on the spot. And if you put your hand up like this, that means you don't want to talk. But and tell us what's on your sheet.
Sarah. A cat, a book, a heart, and a leaf.
Can you hold that up? Is this okay, parents? They're going to be on camera. I'm kind of making this up a little raw here. Can everyone see? Wow. And Vera, what do you have? Hearts. And for what you love? You love love? Hearts. Can everyone see? We need a big refrigerator.
I'm Amanda. It's a picture of our cat Patches and some of the things she likes to play with, including Lego bricks. And also it has a miniature picture of Peppermint.
Oh, wow. You hold that up.
Charlotte.
And what you got there?
I have so many.
You have so many.
2 unicorns on the front and back. Flamingo. Unicorn.
Can you guys do this like this? All of you kids.
Art. Rapunzel with pink hair.
Rapunzel with pink hair. Thank you. There you go. You got all that?
Frankie and football.
Frankie and football. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Frankie.
I am Amelia, and this is my picture. It has my whole family with trees behind it. There's some music notes, a puzzle of a field of flowers, a math problem.
A math problem. She loves math.
An eagle. Something that says STEM with little icons for STEM under it, and a little STEM. It also says Amelia Antonelli, Yumi People.
Oh my gosh. See, I do a stick person, but look at that. All you kids. How about yourself? What's your name?
My name is Artie, and I drew quite a lot of things because I like quite a lot of things, but the math that I drew was actually algebra.
Another math kid. I can't, in my whole life, I have never done math as art. I am so impressed. Thank you. And your name?
My name is Emily, and I got a lot of pictures.
Well, let's see. Here we go. What you got? So what's the first one?
That's my family.
Then we have more family. And then how about we'll do this right here? Oh, who's this?
I don't know.
Strangers or friends we haven't met yet. So there you go. You mind my saying that and tell us about this one.
I can't remember either.
You know, welcome to some of my sermon writing right there. So thank you. A round of applause for our kids. Did we get everybody? Thank you so much. And on that note, we're going to go right into our postlude with John. And kids, if you want to sit down here close and watch him play guitar, you're welcome. Is that okay, parents? They stay close and watch guitar. You know, my favorite thing on earth is a single voice and a guitar. So Reverend KB is so thrilled. All right. Thank you, kids. And you can just sit down anywhere.
On the chorus, when we get to the line where it says, sometimes this old farm feels like a long-lost friend, I'm going to sing, this church feels like a long-lost friend. There's a storm across the valley, clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away, and the whining of his wheels just makes it colder. He's an hour away from writing all your prayers up in the sky, and 10 days on the road are barely gone. There's a fire softly burning, supper's on the stove, and there's a light in your eyes that makes him warm. Hey, it's good to be back home again. Sometimes this old church seems like a long-lost friend. Yes, and hey, it's good to be back home again. And oh, the time that I can lay this tired old body down, feel your fingers, feathers soft upon me. The kisses I live for, the love that lights my way, the happiness that living with you brings me. It's the sweetest thing I know of, just spending time with you. It's the little things that make a house a home. Like a fire softly burning, supper's on the stove, and the light in your eyes that makes me warm. And hey, it's good to be back home again. Sometimes this old church seems like a long-lost friend. Yes, and hey, it's good to be back home again. Yes, hey, it's good to be back home again. Sometimes this old church seems like a long-lost friend. Yes, and hey, it's good to be back home again. Oh, yes, it's good to be back home again.
There we go. So, our closing words while we extinguish the chalice are adapted from the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. As we extinguish this flame, let us take with us the knowledge that in the end, the line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart. May our awareness of this truth ever slow our rush to judgment, ignite our curiosity to better understand those we once condemned, and widen the circle of those we would call friend. Amen.
Juan is so kind to play for us, so we have some music. You are welcome to stay. You are welcome to move on to Fellowship Hall to get some coffee and treats. He's not going to take it personal, I know, but thank you, Juan, for stepping in. We did a little flippy at the end in the name of, I'll leave it at that. It's good.